G'day folks, well this is another Mercury core Dodep cube. This one I've named Quicksilver. And if you know anything about mercury, you'll know that one of the old names for the chemical mercury was Quicksilver. So this is not really related to the planet Mercury. I guess it's all sort of related, but it's quite different to the other names which are all related to the planet. But it's very fitting that this is a different name because it is a completely different solve from pretty much all the other Mercuries that I've done. And this one is by far the hardest puzzle that I've done in the series at this point, and I would put it in probably my top 3 of difficult puzzles. It is a 1x, 2x, XX. So what that means is I've got a 1 face and an X face or a blocked face. I've then got a 2 face and an X face, and I've got an X face and an X face. In other words, there are only 2 movable faces. All I can do is turn like that and turn like that. That's it. And you're probably going to think when it's scrambled, well, how on earth do you solve that? That's exactly what I was thinking when I first came across this. I nearly didn't even make it, and I thought, how can that even be possible? I am so glad I did, because it is a very, very satisfying solve to be able to get through something like this and figure out a way through the mess. So I'll give this a bit of a scramble. And as I said, all I can really do is stuff like this over and over in different amounts of turns. And I'll just keep going until it's looking more scrambled. All right, well, this is looking pretty nicely scrambled now. You might notice that it doesn't all look scrambled. In other words, those edge parts there all seem to be not separated. Well, the reason for that is it's impossible to separate them. So if I turn that blue face, you can see nothing's going to separate there. In order to get this separated from that, I would have to be able to turn the white face as a 1 face, but it does not. So even though it doesn't look fully scrambled, this is now fully scrambled. I should say there is a potential for a massive sting in the tail with this puzzle right at the end. So stick around for that, because if it happens, it's one of those things where you just go, you have got to be kidding. All right, how did I approach this? What I thought, instead of doing the normal method that I would do, which would be solve centers, reduce edge triplets, and then solve the reduced cube, I just went, I can't do that. I don't have the faces to be able to reduce the triplets. So I've got to do a piece type. There are corners, edges, centers, and wings. So the real thing was, what order do I do them, and how do I actually do them as well? The first thing that I want to do is solve the edges. So I'll choose either of these faces and just get 2 edges into position. With the white red, I'll go and grab the white green and put that one to its position. So those 2 are done. I can use these 2 to get the other blue edges. The yellow is done, that orange is done, the red is done. So in actual fact, I've got a swap of 2 here. So all that means is I need to turn this face 1 turn and then go ahead and resolve some of these pieces. So if I want to resolve the yellow down to there, I'll just do a setup and undo that setup. That's now in position. This one should be blue-red. Okay, let's move that across. And that should leave us a 3 cycle with these last 3 pieces. Okay, so all the edges are in. The next thing, I thought I'm going to do the corners, and the only thing that I really can do with corners here, I don't have 3 faces in a row to do a corner piece series or anything like that. All I can do is 3 down, down, up, ups. Okay, so I note that this white, blue, orange, that blue, yellow, red could swap. So I can swap these 2, and these 2 as I wish. Let's see, that one's already in, red, white, green. I now want to get the blue, yellow, red in. I've got to find where that is. It's over here, and I don't want to involve this one. So I'm going to have to do something like do that setup and then move that face there. This is the one that I've already done. I want to swap those two by doing 3 down, down, up, ups. So this is almost about as simple as you can get. Got to remember to undo the setups correctly. I think it was that one. And then that one. Okay, that's in and that's in. Good. Now, what I notice next is that all 4 of the remaining corners are in position. And I've found either that happens or I'm left with a 2+2 swap. So these 2 and those 2. I've never had any other situations. So while I can't say for certainty that this will always happen, I think it will always happen. So my corners are in. I next need to orient them. I'm going to use soon and its mirror to do that. So let's have a look what I've got. That's got to go anti. That's clock. That's anti. I'm just going to, these 2 here are nice. I'm going to turn them around, put them in position, and just carry out a soon. And then it's mirror. Normally I'd just be turning away, but I cannot. And so I need to shift that turnable face over to the left. Then I can do the soon mirror. Okay, when that's done, turn that back. And when I undo that setup, you'll see those 2, the ones that I was twisting, they are twisted. I'm going to keep doing that for the remainder of the corners. And just bringing the last corner into position. So all the corners are now twisted on this thing, and that certainly looks better. All right, well, that leaves 2 piece types, and the next piece type that I'm going to do are the centers. And when I was looking for sequences to move centers and wings around, what I discovered was that everything I found for the centers always involved the wings as well, but I was able to find a 3 cycle for the wings, which was pure, which did not involve anything else. And that tells me the wings had to be last. The centers are what is coming now. So to solve the centers, the first thing, I want to have the blue face at the top, the one face at the top. And this involves 2 3 cycles. That's right, 2 3 cycles. You might be thinking, well, how on earth is that going to be useful? They'll be all over the place. Very good question. And the only reason it is really useful is because one of the 3 cycles are those 3 pieces there. The other 3 cycle is that one, and that one. Now you will acknowledge that if those 3 pieces weren't involved, that, and that are really nice pieces to have, because I can just turn this white face like that to bring pieces where I want them. Now the key to this, the actual sequence, is not tricky. It's not a commutator, but it's pretty close. It's easy to carry out. The tricky part of this is realizing that what I need to do is the faces in a very specific order. So initially I thought, well, what I'm going to do is get these 3 blue pieces here done first, and then I'll just be able to do this one. But what happens is, as I go to turn another face up, it pushes those blue pieces out, and I've got other pieces in the mix. So what I need to do is firstly do the red face, then I want to do the green face, and then that will leave me with only orange and blue pieces, and then I'll finish the orange face. So because of that, all I care about initially, I say, well, the piece, I'm ignoring these pieces here, and I'm just looking at this piece, and this piece. And what I'm going to do is say, there's a red piece. I would like to place that into the red face, which is either going to be here or here. Now, because I'm ignoring whatever is here, I don't care about anything else, I just want to get the red to here. The standard sequence that I'm using is RU, R prime U, times 5. And that will move pieces from here to here to here, like that. So this red piece is going to belong there. Now, these are going to move around as well, but as I said, I don't care. So 5 lots of R, U, R prime, U. That's 3. And coming into the last one. Okay, what you can see is that the red piece that was there has come here. Stuff has also moved around, but don't care. Let's move this back. Let's move this back just to get everything back to where it is. Okay, Now, that's that red piece in there. I next want to get this red piece. Now, to get that red piece, I need to move this red piece up onto this blue face somehow. Now, this time, instead of having the piece movement go like that, so the red goes there, I'd like to reverse it so the red lands on that position. And to reverse it, I want to do U prime R, U prime R prime. Whoops, just one face, U prime R, U prime R prime 5 times. Last one. Okay, there's the red. That now means that I can turn the red face up and I say, oh, now that red goes to there, this one goes to here, that one goes to there. Perfect. This is the normal sequence of R, U, R prime U 5 times. Okay, that is all done. And what I want to do now is say that red face needs to go back into its position. All the corners and edges are still there. Those centers are now done. The next one was the green face. So I say, well, there's a green up there. That's great. So I'm going to move that to there and repeat the same kind of thing to get the green down to there. Now you can see that it has gone into that position. I'll put the green face back and we'll see that there's another green that has moved over to here. So let's put that back initially. I definitely still want to get this green filled, even though it's tempting to go, oh, why don't I just do the orange? Well, actually, I'm kind of going to do the orange anyway. I'm going to have to get this green up into that position. So this may work out okay, it may not. But again, all I really care about now is getting that green piece up to there. So once again, RU R prime U times 5. Green is there. I'm now ready to turn the green up and repeat the sequence to fill the green centers. Okay, we will turn that back down to there. So the reds are still done. They haven't been touched. The greens are now done. Now I've just got oranges and blues. And I simply repeat the same thing, but I'm not having to turn this face anymore until I have both oranges in there, and then the blues will automatically be done. So to get this orange into here, I would either put that there or that there. I'm just going to have a think. The piece movement of the other 3 pieces when I do the normal sequence is here to here to here. So if I was to place, let's say that I did that setup and I place this orange in here. This orange will go to here. And that's okay because then I can just turn that around. If I have this one placed in here, then the piece movement is like that. That orange will be there. I think both of them are going to be fine to keep the orange where it belongs. So no problem there. Let's go ahead and repeat the sequence. That is done. And now finally, we can just turn that orange piece into the correct position and do the last cycle for these centers. Done. Done. All corners are back, all edges are back, all centers are done. You can see that the important thing there is, I mean, the sequence is important, obviously, but the way that I placed the pieces was what made that work and not have to worry about what was going on here. But also doing that joining of the RU R prime U, yes, it joined all the centers, but what it also did was put all the corners and edges back. That was key. So that is the centers all done. And I venture to say, oh, we're now on the home stretch. Well, we kind of are because we've only got one piece type left to solve. However, there are potentially 16 of these wings to do. If you look on the white face, there's potentially 8, and in fact we do have 8. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here. We've then got these two that can move and these two. So I have all 16 here which need to be done. Now this was the hardest thing for me to find, and it's the longest sequence of the whole thing, but it's still fairly straightforward to understand and carry out. So I'm going to demonstrate it initially by looking at the blue yellows that belong down here. Now I can turn this white face to position things, and I can turn the blue face to position things. The piece movement that I'm looking for is the following. It's a 3 cycle that moves a piece from here to here. So across the top, the same sticker color just goes to the top. Then this piece rolls down to that position, same sticker color there. So if that's white, that's white. And then the third piece, which is here, goes back to there, and it essentially travels the reverse direction. So that white sticker would come to there and land over here. The white orange would actually land in that position. Now, I could do that just to demonstrate this, but what I'm going to do instead is what I normally do, just try and solve these bottom yellow blues first. And to do that, what I could do as a setup is turn this yellow blue into that position. Now, I note that if I turn the blue face up, I've actually got both of my yellow blues sitting here. And that tells me, because I need this piece to be opposite that, what I'm actually going to do is not do that setup initially, turn the position of the yellow blue up, and then do the setup. So now I've got the yellow blue piece, which is going to come around to that position, and you can see clearly yellow blue, that is going to place. At this point, I don't care at all what happens with the rest of them. I mean, if one of them solves, great. If not, no problem. And here, what we're going to find is that I do have a green-white, but the green is going to come up to there and land in that wrong position. That's okay, because I just want to demonstrate the yellow-blue going to that position. Okay, pretty easy setup. They are certainly not all like that. But what am I doing? Well, essentially what I'm carrying out here is a soon plus its mirror, which will rotate these corners. I'm then going to do up 2, left 2 times 3. Once I've done that, I'm going to undo the mirror and undo the soon, and then undo that up 2, left 2 times 3. I will try and explain it as I go through, just to sort of demonstrate what's actually happening. So let's first do a soon and its mirror. I've got the faces correctly set up, so away we go. There's the soon. The mirror, that face won't turn, and so I need to move that bottom part underneath. Remember that none of this stuff has been touched by doing a soon or the mirror. Okay, now that is done, and what I then said was U2 L2 times 3. The reason that I'm involving L2 is because it's over on this side. And what I'm trying to do, I noticed that one of these sides, only one of these particular wings was touched. Now, because it's scrambled, I can't tell you at the moment which one it was, but essentially what that does, what the U2 L2 does, is replace one of the wings. So I'm going to do that. U2, L2, U2, L2, U2, L2. If you had a print screen or something, and you would probably notice that either one of these was different or one of these was different and nothing else had changed. That's the key to forming an algorithm that will actually do the job. Okay, so that is now done. Now what I want to do is undo my soon mirror and then undo my soon. So I believe this may be called an anti-soon, but I'm really not sure. But essentially, I'm undoing the soon mirror. So that means I've got to go up, or sorry, when I say up, I mean turn this face up, which is really a left prime, then an up 2, left, up, left prime, up, left. Then I need to undo my soon, but I have a non-turning face over here. So I want to move the blue back over there, undo my soon. Well, that would be a right, up 2, right prime, up prime, right, up prime, right prime. Right, you can see things are still looking pretty good down the bottom, which is a good sign that things have actually happened. You can also see, oh, there's a yellow blue sitting in that position. This looks like it's worked. And we're not quite done yet because the last thing I have to undo is that U2L2. But when I did the U2L2, I had the blue turning face over here. Now it's over here. So to undo that U2L2, I'm actually going to do R2 U2 times 3. The whole sequence is done. I just need to undo my setups now. And you'll notice that I just had that set up and then that set up. Checking all the edges and corners are all back where they should be. We do have a green-white flipped in the wrong way in that position, but importantly, down here, I have placed a yellow-blue piece. Now that is the sequence, and I've found pretty much I can really only ever get one done at a time. So I'm looking, obviously the last 3, you get all 3 done. So I guess I'm looking at 13 or 14 of these sequences. What I want to try and do now is carry out the opposite sequence to that. So instead of this to here, I can also do this piece to here to here. So I'm going to just note that I do have a yellow blue sitting there. What would happen if I turned that up? That's the position. I kind of really want that to be there potentially, or I want it to be opposite this piece. So because that's turning up to there, it seems sensible that I would do a setup to that position first and then turning it up. And now I've got that yellow-blue opposite there and the color is correct. So those setups I will remember. I've also got to do a U-turn. So I'm now going to have the yellow-blue come around to there, the blue-red come to here, and this blue-white go back to that position. Okay, so I've just got to remember to undo the U-turn at the end and I should be good. What is the actual, I guess I'd call it the mirror of that first sequence? So what I want to do is start off with a soon mirror. Well, that's on the left, which means I got to get my turning face over to the left, and now I can carry out my soon mirror. Then I need to do a soon, but I need a turning face on the right. So I'll bring that back over. Okay, that is done. Now, on the first sequence, I did U2L2. This time, I'm going to do U2R2. That's where my turning face is. So 3 of them. Now, I need to undo my soon. So I'm going to undo that soon by doing that turn and then 2 of them. That's undone the soon. Let's turn this around to undo the mirror soon. That looks undone. And the last thing is an L2 U2 times 3. Okay, now that all is done. I do need to get this face back over to here. And you can see, oh, that looks good. There is a yellow-blue in that position, which is what I wanted, and that other one has not moved. I had to remember the U-turn, then the right 2, and then that U-turn again. Just checking, all corners and edges are exactly where they should be. All centers are still solved, but I've now got both of those yellow blues. So that is the sequence that I came up with. I hope you'll agree. It's a nifty little sequence. I think it's 44 moves or so. When you're doing it without explaining it, it doesn't take that long. Like, you just get into a rhythm. The hard part of doing this sequence is not the actual sequence. It is setting up the pieces into the position that you want. And particularly when you get down to the last few, that can be quite difficult. And I end up writing down setup moves. So I'm going to continue working through these and I will cut back in at a much later stage. All right, well, I'm down to my last 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And off camera, I came up with, I'm just thinking, how do I get a piece into a position that's useful? I'm going to get this blue-red piece over to here and this piece over to there. So I've got 3 pieces sitting there. The steps that I came up with, and this is an example of the sort of setups that you need at this point in time. U prime, R2, U prime, R2, U, R prime, U2, R. Now, as I said, there's no way that I would have been able to just concoct that on the spot, but you can see now I've got the blue-white's going to come here. This blue-red is going to travel down that way and fill that position. That's the one that I'm trying to fill. Okay, so it's on this side, which means I need to start with doing a mirror turn, a mirror seam first. Okay, sequence is done. You can see the blue-red that I wanted to get there is there. So let's go ahead and undo all of those setup moves. So I've got to do, in fact, I've got to get this back to there first. Now I can do R prime, U2, R, U prime, R2, U, R2, U. And you can see that that certainly has filled that. And this is the sting in the tail that I was talking about at the beginning. I now have what looks as though it's, oh, well, I've got 2 pieces flipped in place. That should be pretty simple to solve. It's actually a swap of 2 wings. So this wing, it would be possible to do some setups and place this wing correctly into that position. Same thing with this wing to that position. There is no way to just kind of flip these over in place. And when I first came across this, I was pretty distraught because I thought, you have got to be kidding me, because it seems like now I'm going to have to resolve the whole thing. And in fact, essentially that is true. So let me explain how I thought through fixing this problem. The issue is that I have a single swap of 2 wings. Now we know when a puzzle is solved, there are 0 swaps of pieces of all piece types. So at this point, all the corners are placed, so there are 0 swaps. All the edges are placed, 0 swaps. All the centers are placed, 0 swaps. But the wings, I've got 1 swap. So I have to do something to create a second swap of wings without putting out the corners and the edges. Now, when we consider what happens when we turn a one face, you'll notice that now my corners are all out. In other words, I've created 1 swap of corners. And what I mean by that is to replace these corners, that's got to go there. So I could swap those 2. Then I could swap, then this one would be here. I could then swap those 2. And I could swap those 2 and those 2. That would be 3 swaps required. Now, you remember that when we started, I said I had 1 swap of wings. That's bad. An odd number of swaps is bad. So by doing this, I've created 3 swaps of corners. What about the edges? Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. To get them back into position, that's also 3 swaps. Different piece type. So now I've got a problem with the edges as well as the corners. Now the centers aren't an issue because I've got multiple pieces of the same color, so it doesn't really matter. I can kind of forget about the centers. What about the wings? Well, I notice here that, in fact, I'll do this. I wonder if I can do it I can't even do it on a different face, but when I do this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 wings, but they're kind of in orbits. So that and that and that and that. That is a set of 4 wings in those orbits. Then I've got another set in the same orbit, or in a different orbit, but it's the same number of swaps. So by doing that, it actually doesn't affect the wings. People talk about parity, or things being out of parity. That just means the number of swaps. And so by turning this blue face, what I've ended up doing is disturbing the parity or the number of swaps of corners. I've disturbed the number of swaps of edges, but but I haven't actually changed the number of swaps of wings. So I still have a problem with the wings. Okay, that's the one face. What about when I turn a two face? Once again, I have disturbed the parity of the corners. However, if I turn the blue face also, that messes the corners up. That puts them back to an even number of swaps. So that's what happens with corners. What about edges? That messes up the number of swaps of edges. That fixes up the number of swaps of edges. So by doing that face and that face, I'm going to get the corners and the edges back to where they should be. Now, the final piece of the puzzle. What happens when I turn this two face? Well, you'll notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got the same situation as on this face with those wings. That doesn't affect anything. However, I also have these wings in the second layer or in the slice. So as I do that, I now have created 1, 2, 3, 4, a 4 cycle of wings. So back here, I had a 2 cycle of wings, a swap of wings, which is a 2 cycle. By doing this, I create a 4 cycle of wings, and together with that 2 cycle, that has now fixed the wing problem. This has caused a problem with the corners and the edges. This undoes that problem with the corners and the edges. So essentially, the fix for this is to turn the two face one turn, the one face one turn, and go and resolve everything. You can understand my frustration. Now, there may well be some really nice and simple fix for it. I have no idea what that would be. And so for me, what I ended up having to do from here was resolve the entire thing starting from the edges. I would go replace the edges, replace the corners, retwist the corners, redo the centers, and then redo all, normally 16 of those wings. And eventually I'm left with 3 pieces only in a 3 cycles. So the white green's got to go there, blue red to there, white orange to there. And my task now is to work out how to get these 3 pieces in the position they need to be. What I notice is that that is already in the cycle with this piece here. So this to here to here. So kind of what I need to do is move this around to that position. And then that white green will go to there, that will go to there, that will go to there. So again, this is not the sort of thing that I could just do like that. I did have to think about it a little bit. And here's what I've come up with initially. I did an R prime, a U prime, and an R. And the reason I did that was to get those two together on the same layer, if you like. So this piece here has to be moved around to that position now. So the way I then did it was to go U prime, these two are on the same layer, right 2, which puts them down the bottom, then a U, which is that key move that's going to turn that piece where I need it, then a right 2 to bring these other 2 back to the top, and then a U. Now what you'll notice there is that that and that are still in the same position they were, but this one has moved from there to there. So I now have white, green going to go to there, blue, red coming down correctly to there, and the white, orange going there. So this is one of the mirror ones where I've got to start by doing the soon mirror on the left-hand side. And it is absolutely this sequence, the sort of thing, as I said before, that if you do muck it up, it's honestly, it's the whole solve again. So I'm going to try really hard to concentrate. And the very last thing, just to put the turnable face back to that side. Now you'll notice that those 3 pieces which were involved now appear to be done. So the only thing left is to undo all these setups, and that's why I wrote it down. I just wouldn't remember. So I've got to do U prime, R2, U prime, R2, U. I should be able to get it from here, but I'm not. Anyway, R prime, U. Oh my goodness. So that is a killer of a puzzle, this thing that I've called Quicksilver. It's the hardest, I reckon, of the Mercury core puzzles. And, well, I hope you enjoyed me working through that solve. and I'll see you on the next video.